The animal kingdom is usually a masterpiece. When God was in the studio designing the tiger or the great white shark, he was clearly cooking, but there are a few creatures out there that prove the divine dev team occasionally pushes out terrible updates without testing them first. These are the animals that were either outsourced to an unpaid intern, given the worst stat distributions imaginable, or just flat out abandoned before the weekend. Here are 10 animals that God clearly gave up on. If this were the oppression Olympics, the octopus is taking home gold. God gave the octopus the exact same IQ as a 2-year-old human or a smart dog. They are literally smart enough to carry around coconut shells as a travel-sized panic room. But being smart is the only thing they have going for them, because God immediately nerfed their spawn rate. Most octopuses are born orphans. The mom watches her eggs for months without eating, completely shriveling up. Then, the babies hatch into an ocean full of things that want to eat them. If 2 out of 50,000 survive, that's an overachievement. And if they do survive, God hit them with a 1-year subscription to life. Being an octopus means you can be born on New Year's, have a midlife crisis by June, and be a memory by October. And as for the males, once they catch their V card, their body basically initiates self-destruct mode. If his date doesn't eat him, his post-nut clarity is literal death. At least the octopus was just bad luck. The kiwi bird is proof that God was actively plotting on its downfall. This bird is in the retite family, meaning its cousins are the ostrich, the emu, and the cassowary. Having those guys as cousins but coming out looking like a hairy pair is like having a whole family tall enough to play in the NBA, but you got your height from a footstool. God shrank everything about this bird, except the eggs. A kiwi has to push out an egg that is 20% of its body weight. That's like a human birthing a 35-pound baby. It literally rearranges their internal organs. God definitely had serious beef with this bird. The sloth has absolutely nothing going for it because God designed its engine to run on literal leaves. Going into energy debt means death, so they move slower than a DMV line. If a baby sloth falls out of a tree, the mom won't even waste the energy to go pick it up. And despite living in the trees, they only use the bathroom once a week, and they insist on climbing all the way down to the ground to do it. That means half of all sloths die getting clapped on the toilet like Elvis. You know that trope where someone makes a wish to a genie, but the genie completely screws them over in the fine print? Enter the fiddler crab. God gave the males one giant massive claw for the sole purpose of flexing on females. The problem? That claw is a massive disability. It's too big to pick up food. They have to eat with their one tiny little baby claw, meaning it takes them twice as long to eat, which means they spend twice as long exposed on the beach getting hunted by seagulls and raccoons. By preferring the guys with the biggest, most useless claws, the females are dooming their own children. The peacock has the exact same problem, but on absolute steroids. The peacock is the biggest flexor in the animal kingdom, but God made sure there was a catch. Showing off those massive, colorful tail feathers makes you the center of attention. The bad news is, sometimes that attention is a 700-pound tiger. The feathers are so heavy that they drag the peacock's takeoff speed down, meaning his biggest flex is directly responsible for getting him turned into a tiger's toothpick. The peacock and the crab got handed massive L's, but at least there was a biological reason for it. The Luna moth got shafted purely because God thought it would be funny. To make a long story short, God forgot to give adult Luna moths a mouth. They physically cannot eat. They live for exactly 1 week on their stored caterpillar energy, just long enough to mate and doom their children to the exact same non-consensual hunger strike. If you think the guys have it bad, God believes in equal opportunity suffering. The sea louse is a tiny crustacean, and its reproductive cycle is a literal horror movie. A male will kidnap a smaller female, drag her into a burrow, and forcibly impregnate her. But the true system crash happens when the babies grow. They don't wait to be born. They simply decide to start eating their way out of their own mother. By the time they enter the ocean, their mom is just a husk. Having a home-cooked meal right out of the gate apparently boosts their survival stats. Somehow, the sea louse isn't the worst birth on this list. Female hyenas were designed with a pseudo-appendage that looks exactly like the male equipment. The massive design flaw here is that they have to give birth through it. Keep in mind, hyenas have some of the largest cubs of any carnivore. The process is so painful and catastrophic that a massive percentage of first-time mothers don't even survive the process, and 60% of the cubs suffocate on the way out. God really looked at the hyena and decided to hit them with the most brutal spawn point imaginable. This is nature at its absolute grimiest. The babirusa is a wild pig with tusks that grow straight up through the roof of its snout. But God didn't point them forward like a weapon, he pointed them backward. If the male doesn't break these tusks off in a fight, they will continuously grow in a perfect 180-degree arc directly back into his own skull, eventually piercing his brain. The ultimate design flaw? By the time his own dental plan claps him, he has already reproduced, meaning he passes this terrible software update straight to his kids. We are talking about animals that got sodomized by the fleshy phallus of the creator. We have to talk about the cheetah. God dumped absolutely every single evolution point into speed and left every other stat at 0. They're so exhausted after running that they have to take a nap immediately after making a kill, meaning hyenas and lions constantly walk up and just steal their food. A cheetah will let a vulture, a bird that only eats things that are already dead, bully it off a meal. And because of a massive genetic bottleneck, the entire species is heavily inbred. God looked at this apex predator and said, "No roaring for you. The best this spotted doormat can do is chirp like a bird." They're so stressed out that zoos literally have to issue them emotional support dogs just so they can function. They speed run through life, and unless they are in a 100-meter dash or a bird call contest, they lose every single time. So the next time you feel like your life is completely falling apart, just remember, at least you weren't born as a 1-year subscription octopus or a wild pig whose own teeth are actively trying to assassinate him. Nature isn't some beautiful, perfectly balanced ecosystem. It's a completely unhinged beta test, and these 10 animals are permanently stuck with the absolute worst glitches in the game. Drop a comment below on which of these animals you think took the biggest L from the creator, and hit subscribe for more wild reality checks.